So Gary, you have 2 minutes to give your opening statements, please.
There's an incredible opportunity here. I mean, an incredible opportunity to change this country, to change the direction of this country, and that would be from a libertarian perspective. I think I'm the candidate to do that, and that's the pitch that I want to make to all of you. I've been an entrepreneur my entire life, so that gives me a perspective on what it is to hire and fire and regulations and everything it is in growing a business, meeting payroll. Prior to becoming governor of New Mexico, I had never been involved in politics before, and my pitch was just to apply common sense business principles to state government and just watch how well it'll work. And it did. And I think that was exemplified by the fact that I got re-elected in New Mexico as a Republican in a state that's 2-to-1 Democrat. I'm also an athlete. I've been an athlete my entire life, and I've had the good fortune to climb the highest mountain on each of the 7 continents. What that says is I just know how to put one foot in front of the other. I know how to go uphill. I want to admit to you that maybe you've never heard anyone like myself who's as big a failure as I am. I failed at so many things, but the thing about failure is that you can either curl up on a ball on the couch and give up, or you can just recognize that failure is a part of everything and keep moving forward. Never once in this entire process have I said I'm going to be the Libertarian nominee for president. I'm not that guy. I'm not arrogant. I believe in this process. I believe this is about the 12th debate that I will participate in running for president. When I ran for governor of New Mexico, I never mentioned my opponent in print, radio, or television. I think people are just desperate to vote for somebody as opposed to the lesser of 2 evils, and that is the huge opportunity that we have in front of us right now.
Hi, I'm Shawna Sterling, and I'm just tickled. I'm so excited because I feel like I have Gary all to myself. I love it. I mean, I have this great video and all these photos. I don't even know what to say. I'm not a Gary Johnson supporter. I can't. I'm also running for president too, but I have been debating him all across the country, and he's such a gentleman. He's an amazing individual, and I respect him highly. I really do. So let me tell you a little bit about myself. I do have the title of pastor. I did my religious studies at the University of Arizona, Christianity, Judaism, and Islam. Since the age of 12, I've done outreach. My entire life has been dedicated to outreach and ministry. I'm not married. I just love to help people. I have a beautiful girl whom I adopted from the country of Guatemala. I spent 2 years fighting for children's rights and completing her adoption. I got her when she was 8 days old. She's now 9. So this is very hard on her. I'm doing the campaign a little bit different because I'm also a graduate student, so I get student discounts on Greyhound. So Greyhound's my best friend right now. Greyhound has got me all over this country, and it gets me home and tell my daughter, I was just in Texas. Gary, we did a debate up there, then I went down to Florida, did a debate in Miami-Dade, and then got home for one night and then headed up here. So my daughter was really upset to miss me, but she knows that her mom was fighting with the Libertarian Party, and I always come back with Libertarian bumper stickers for her, and so they're all covering our room, so she's doing really good. I love this party. I'm new to this party. Everything I've done with my heart, and I'm extremely loyal. So if you follow me on Facebook, you'll see me probably, I'm not as good as Gary at not getting involved. I actually do talk back to individuals I don't really agree with on Facebook, so you can check Facebook out if you want to know more about that.
All right, thank you both. I jumped over here. Hopefully the mic's better. So if you don't mind me asking you questions from the corner. For this segment, for these questions, it'll be a 1-minute response, and we're going to alternate who goes first and who goes second, but you will both respond to each question so that you have the opportunity to speak to the same issues. So Ms. Sterling, we'll start with you. In your campaign, what will you highlight as your top 3 issues, and how did you choose those over other issues?
I think my top one is basically that the Libertarian Party needs to get into position because we have to rein in our out-of-control federal government. It's full of criminals, and we have to begin prosecuting them, trying to take our government back. I do agree with the Libertarian platform, and I would pursue abolishing all programs that are not required by the U.S. Constitution, so that we can get back to the basics of our Constitution. Some people, I know in Miami-Dade, they just didn't really like that too much. It got real quiet after I said that, but that's how I feel we need to do. We have to stand strong on that, and I would do that under my administration.
Thank you. Governor Johnson?
I think government is too big. I think it spends too much money. As governor of New Mexico, I was a skeptic. I may have vetoed more legislation than the other 49 governors in the country combined. So I think that we need to balance the federal budget. I think there are going to be really negative implications to the fact that we continue to borrow and spend money that we don't have, and it's going to result in inflation. I also believe in individual freedom and liberty. This is a campaign about freedom. Bottom line, we're the party of choice. When it comes to issues, always side on the side of choice, allowing individuals the freedom and liberty to make those choices. And then there is a very real terrorist threat in this world right now. But we're not making it better with our military interventions. We're not making it better with boots on the ground. We're not making it better by dropping bombs. We're not making it better by flying drones and killing thousands of innocents. So let's cut off the funding to terrorism. Let's stop with the military interventions that have unintended consequences of making things worse, not better.
All right, thank you very much. So now for the segments of questions, I'm going to do it by kind of topic. So we're going to start with financial questions. Gary Johnson, you are first. On the issue of debt, our stated national debt has now surpassed $19 trillion, and estimates of debt with unfunded liabilities are as high as $90 trillion. At what point do you think that debt number actually blows up, and what would you do to address this issue?
Well, first of all, I do think that at some point it blows up. I can't tell you when, but the only fighting chance that we have in this is to balance the federal budget. So I would be proposing a balanced federal budget, which is a 20% reduction in federal spending. Keep in mind, I'm running for President of the United States. Congress has to pass legislation. Now, I can suggest that we balance the federal budget, but just count on me to always sign off or always to support anything that makes things better and not worse. And understand also that I am an absolute skeptic. I believe in eliminating income tax, eliminating corporate tax. If eliminating corporate tax doesn't create tens of millions of jobs, I don't know what will, and that also involves abolishing the IRS. Imagine life without the IRS.
Gary mentioned the Congress, and I think what we need to really realize is that we got to get libertarians into office. It's got to be a priority. It's frustrating for me to have come into a party and to put everything into this party and be loyal to this party, to have other members of this party have loyalties to other parties, such as the GOP. And I just question that. I just think, how can we get our libertarians into office and into Congress? How can we do that if we cannot get the people in the Libertarian Party behind them 100%? Gary mentioned that this is a special year, and this really is. And I think everybody here knows that this is basically a perfect storm for the Libertarian Party. If we can get a good presidential candidate and a good vice presidential candidate, and the delegates, y'all will be making that decision, we can have a really good chance, not just getting the percentages, but having a chance for the White House, and that can make a difference right there.
Okay. Ms. Sterling, you will start with the next question. It's on taxes, which was mentioned. So we currently have a federal tax code that exceeds 70,000 pages, mostly filled with special treatment for special interest groups who have paid to have these exceptions built into the code. What would your approach be to modify the tax system, if at all, and that's both at the corporate and personal level?
Well, we got to bring the taxes down for once, but really the first thing I would do is go and sit down with leaders of our Libertarian Party and also with the government, and I know we have to work with the Congress, but I would begin to abolish these programs. They're not required by the U.S. Constitution. We don't need them. American citizens should never have to put any taxes. That's not part of the agreement with the Constitution into anything that's not required by it. Now, when we do our taxes, there's a little check that you can put $1 to presidential fund, okay? I have no problem if individuals want to support education that way. or even if they want to support giving families, I don't want to say welfare, but let's say that someone does want to help families out for food or different things that we're doing now. So I don't want to say we're not going to do it, but I want the American citizens to actually have the choice in what they're going to support, and it should not be done by force.
Taxes are too high. Because taxes are too high, that means that I get taxed too much, and that's liberty and freedom that's taken away from me because I have to pay these taxes. I can't spend that money the way that I see fit. As President of the United States, I'm going to sign on to anything that makes things better. But ideally, when it comes to taxes, let's eliminate income tax, let's eliminate corporate tax. If that doesn't create tens of millions of jobs, I don't know what will. Let's abolish the IRS. And if you want to look to how to implement so first of all, if Congress submits to me legislation to do that, eliminate income tax, eliminate corporate tax, I'm going to sign on to that and I'll make it stick with regard to cuts to government spending. But I don't think they're going to do that. They might replace it with a consumption tax. I'm going to suggest that the fair tax, and there are no fair taxes, but if you look at the fair tax proposal, that is how you dot the I's and cross the T's on how to make one federal consumption tax work.
Thank you. Governor Johnson, you will answer the next question first. It's about money in politics. Currently, corporations, lobbyists, and the wealthy elite control our government through contributions to politicians and their foundations. What would you propose to combat this situation?
I think that contribution should be unlimited, but I think that transparency needs to be 100%. These super PACs are completely non-transparent. Make the process completely transparent. There is a fallacy in this country held by so many that by limiting campaign contributions, what you do is you return power to the ordinary guy, to all of us as individuals, when the reality is when you limit campaign contributions, what you do is you empower the incumbents. You don't give incumbents a chance. So what I like is 100% transparency, and if that includes wearing a NASCAR jacket with my sponsors on there as to who contributes to me and the size of the patch relevant to how much has been contributed to me, terrific.
So I kind of dealt with this, and I was raised Republican. And I'm new to the Libertarian Party. Let's just say that I realized that the Republicans, and I actually hope the Democrats a little bit, they are controlled by the same elites, and you cannot think that you can do anything in that party. It's the Libertarian Party. I hope you guys are ready to hear this. You are the only hope. This party is the only hope. So we got to realize how important that is. Basically, I don't think that any legislation should be put through to limit the money and the funds, okay? And the reason is because I think that regardless, the people need to be educated. They need to know that when these politicians are putting these videos on and they're putting that really great, inspiring music behind it, they are really, really corrupt. They are toxic. And that's why they have to put so much money in, because they're toxic to this government and toxic to the people. That's one thing the Libertarian Party has going for us. We're actually good people. We actually love this country.
20-second follow-up?
Sure.
What are the lobbyists? How do you get rid of Washington lobbyists? Well, if you eliminate corporate tax, I suggest to you that 80% of Washington lobbyists go away because that's why they're there, to garner special favor, to garner their slice of the pie.
Okay, and Ms. Sterling, would you like to add anything to your comments since Mr. Johnson got an extra comment?
I just wanted to say that when you begin to educate the public, then something clicks inside their minds and they're going, ooh, this person is trying to deceive us. This person is not being honest with us. And when you educate them, it doesn't matter how much money the PACs are putting in there. They will notice those ads and they will be able to recognize. And I believe that they'll be seeing that the Libertarian Party is the one with the upper ground that has the ethics, that actually loves humanity, wants humanity, all of humanity to be free.
And Ms. Sterling, you start on the next question. It's Social Security and Medicare. The Social Security Administration predicts that by the year 2033, Social Security recipients will only receive 75% of their target benefits due to the funding shortfalls. Medicare continues to be a growing expenditure within the federal budget. As president, what would you do about these issues?
I would wean wean individuals off of it, just because it's not a requirement of our U.S. Constitution. And then I would have to speak with others concerning policy legislation that would go through, because I haven't really researched that to know what options are available, but I would say that we've got to focus on what is required by the U.S. Constitution, and we just got to wean them off of it somehow.
Thank you.
So I would be proposing a balanced federal budget to Congress. That would include Medicaid and Medicare. Having been governor of New Mexico, in my heart of hearts, if the federal government would have block granted the state of New Mexico 20% less money for Medicaid, and in this case, given the state of New Mexico health care for those over 65, Medicare, and block granted it with 20% less money, in my opinion, I could have seen over the administration of making that happen. It would have been drawing new lines to make that happen. With regard to Social Security, my proposal to eliminate income tax, corporate tax, replace it with a consumption tax, under the fair tax, no longer would there be a withholding from your payroll check for Social Security. No longer would there be an employer match. That would come out of the proceeds of the fair tax. But on top of that, Social Security is absolutely fixable. And there are some reforms to Social Security. One would be raising the retirement age. Another would be a very fair means testing. How much did you put in? How much should you get out given a certain level of income? Should you be able to get out more than what you put in given a certain amount of income? And then being able to self-direct those funds.
And Governor Johnson, you're first on the next question. Regarding the minimum wage, and we heard some of our statewide candidates address this earlier, there's a current push across the country to move the minimum wage to $15 per hour. Do you think there should be a federally mandated minimum wage, or what would you do about minimum wage legislation?
I think there should be a federally mandated minimum wage to $75. I mean, why are we settling for $15? Let's go right to $75 and let's make ourselves, well, obviously you can't do that because somebody has to pay for it. And why the government gets involved in minimum wage? Minimum wage is minimum wage. That's what it's labeled. It's not living wage, it's minimum wage, and don't get the government involved in this. And like I say, if we will eliminate income tax and corporate tax, I believe tens of millions of jobs will get created in this country as a result of doing that.
I do not agree with the federal government putting any kind of stipulations on businesses. And I do not think that, I feel like it's just a trap. You hear it a lot from the Democrats, that they're gonna, $15, okay? But then what they do is they go and put other legislation through that raises prices, for example, like milk might go up, or other things might go up, okay? And they get that money out of you. I just feel like it's a trap. And then they can say, oh, well, you know, we gave you $15, but then they come back at you and find another way to entrap you. So I don't agree with that. I think that as we get rid of programs that are not required by the U.S. Constitution, as we give our families more money in their pockets because they're not paying for the taxes, and that will affect our economy. And also, I want businesses to be able to not feel pressure that they can't hire people that they might want to hire because of these ridiculous rules. I think it's causing individuals who could have a job to not even get hired in the first place.
The next section of questions are dealing with security issues. And Ms. Sterling, you're first on the first one. It's related to the military. We currently have 1.3 million active duty military personnel, and that does not count civilian contractors who play a similar role. Our military budget is over $600 billion per year. What adjustments, would you make to these numbers, and how do you feel that would affect our national security?
Well, I love our military. I've been very strong supportive of our military, and I've taken some courses on military families and veterans at the University of Kentucky. So my view, and this is my personal view, you got to remember, this isn't about me, this is about we as a party, and I'm learning. Every debate I go, I'm learning more. I'm representing the party as a whole. The party is very diverse. So the more you tell me, the more I'm able to better represent the party. I would make sure that our military had everything they need. Okay, and that to me, that's making sure our national security is okay. But other members of the party have told me that There is a lot of money that they don't need, it's not required by the US Constitution, and we need to decrease that funding. So this is where I'm at. If, under my administration, if we can find those areas, it's not required by the US Constitution, will not affect our national security, then I will seek to remove them so that we can cut that funding down.
I'm proposing a 20%, I'm proposing a balanced budget, so that means a 20% reduction in military spending. A 20% reduction in military spending is only going back a handful of years. And let's keep in mind that the United States is spending as much on its military as the rest of the countries in the world combined. I am opposed to foreign aid. Look, we're building roads, schools, bridges, highways, and hospitals halfway around the world. Don't we have those same needs here in this country today? So, a strong national defense. Let's spend billions on defense, but not a penny on empire.
In a related question, and Governor Johnson, you're first to answer this one, specifically for ISIS, Ted Cruz has said that he would carpet bomb them and would like to find out if sand can glow in the dark. What would your approach be to deal with ISIS?
There are unintended consequences of everything that we do. I mean, take Iran and Iraq as an example. We toppled Saddam Hussein, and that was the check that we had against Iran. Now we have to deal with Iran. So we cut off the head of the Hydra, and where is Al-Qaeda? Well, Al-Qaeda's gone, now we have ISIS. We need to deal with ISIS. We need to cut off the funding to ISIS. We need to follow the example of Saudi Arabia and the Emirates when it comes to cutting off the funding to ISIS. Get Congress involved in declaring war, something that right now is executive prerogative along with the military.
So I'm going to try to be nice, but this is what I disagree with Gary on this. Al-Qaeda is ISIS. Al-Qaeda's al-Nusra Front is ISIS. They are our enemies. They are plotting to harm our nation. And the current authorization for military force, AUMF, that we currently have, was given to our Pentagon and our military before Obama. So they actually have a law that says that they can go after enemies of our nation as long as they are tied to Al-Qaeda. They can go after them. Obama can't stop them. Now he's trying to hold them up so that so that they cannot target them, especially al-Nusra, because al-Nusra is being funded by proxy armors in Saudi Arabia and Qatar and Turkey. So what we have is we have Al-Qaeda very much alive through al-Nusra. We actually have Obama, who's committed treason by arming our enemies, and he needs to be removed from the White House. And I would never, and I've been fighting Congress, giving him another AUMF because he'll send 20 to 30,000 of our troops to the Syrian border. Do not give him an AUMF. Wait till we get a new president and we'll deal with it at that point.
Okay, Ms. Sterling, you're the first to respond to the next question. It's regarding the relationship of privacy and security. So the government tells us we can have either privacy or security, but not both. They need to see our emails, cell phone, text data, all those records. What is your position on data privacy and how it relates to security?
I totally disagree with the government, and I would not sign any legislation that came before me that would try to take away any of the privacy and security of the American citizens. The American citizens, we trump the government. We are the ones who make the decisions for our government. We have the right to tell them that we do not want to have our privacy violated. I would not support it under anything they would try to sneak in. However they try to get the legislation in, I would not support it at all.
As President of the United States, I would have never established the Department of Homeland Security. Would have never happened. I would have never established the TSA. I would have left that to the airlines, municipalities. I would not have gotten government involved. The fact that NSA is collecting metadata we are outraged. The fact there is due process, but in this case, due process is the FISA court granting access to 110 million Verizon users. In my opinion, that is not due process, and that's what's happening in this country right now, and that needs to get stopped. So in the context of so many different agencies out there, I would also like to fold NSA under the FBI, and as President of the United States, I would work toward getting rid of Homeland Security also. In my opinion, this is redundancy.
And I would just like to make a follow-up comment. Ms. Sterling, you said that the rights of citizens trump the needs of the national government. You said Trump and I got queasy, but that's... But I agree with the concept entirely. Now we're going to transition to some issues about how the government relates to people at a personal level. We're going to start with health care. Governor Johnson, you're first on this one. We've all been talking about the Patient Protection and Affordable Care Act, also known as Obamacare. What, if anything, would you do with Obamacare, and what would you propose to address the issues within healthcare in the United States?
Look, when this whole healthcare debate started, I thought, wow, we're going to actually have, potentially, we're going to have a free market approach to healthcare. And if we had a free market approach to healthcare, which, by the way, we're about as far removed from free market and healthcare as it comes, but under a free market approach to healthcare, we would not have insurance to cover ourselves for ongoing medical need. We would have insurance to cover ourselves for catastrophic injury and illness, and we would pay as you go in a system that would cost 1/5 of what it currently costs. When this whole healthcare debate started, I envisioned gallbladders are us. Gallbladder surgery at thousands of dollars as opposed to tens of thousands of dollars. Stitches are us, x-rays are us, 2 doors down, radiologists that are going to read the x-rays from X-Rays R Us for just $80. But that's the opportunity that we have, and right now my insurance premiums have quadrupled. As far as I'm concerned, the Supreme Court was right, it's a tax.
That I actually crossed over into the dark side to help get a president elected on the healthcare issue, because I had a family member who was who his business, my father actually, his business was doing great, and then in 2008 he went under, and because of he has back pain that never goes away, and he could not get insurance. So I actually did help with him get that out. And the good part is I know how to get a president into office because I learned how to organize and became an organizer. But the thing is what they sold to the people is not what they are implementing right now. It's not affordable, that's a lie. And premiums have doubled and tripled. Medication has gone up. People who have diabetes and could get access to their medication in the past can't do it, and they're worried. And that's just one thing. I would seek to repeal it and then go through the states, try and do something else, but I wouldn't. Through the federal government, it's ridiculous. Nobody should have to answer to the IRS based on their health care. You having to send in and let them know every month you've been insured is horrible, and I'm totally against it.
Thank you. Ms. Sterling, you're first on this one, and coincidentally it has a reference to Donald Trump in it. So it's regarding immigration. Now, Mr. Trump has said that he would deport 11 million illegal immigrants and then have Mexico pay for a wall to keep future immigrants out. Other people want open borders, as people across the globe are looking for a place for economic opportunity and a safe haven from persecution. What is your plan for immigration, both the current situation and future policy?
I agree with, I'm all for the Libertarian platform. I feel that we should be able to be free to move around as long as the individuals aren't going to try and harm any of our citizens. And also part of that platform says that we should have some control and have some kind of system in place to protect our citizens and those who come into our country. I am not for building a wall. I think the wall freaks me out because you can also get locked inside of a wall. And then, I'll just say this because McAfee says this, so I'm gonna have to say something he says, but it's something I agree with. He says when you're talking about Mexico individuals who just dig under the wall, and it's true, I mean, they're gonna get through, so why build a wall? The issue here is, what I would do, and this is what I've said, if you are in the country by the time I take office, I will get you in via the U.S. Constitution, and I believe I can do that because if I can get them with the open nationality, they can come in. But after that, we will have a system in place, and you will not come in if it's done illegally at that time.
I think that we should embrace immigration. We're a country of immigrants, and when it comes to Mexico, we're getting the cream of the crop when it comes to workers. They're taking jobs that U.S. citizens don't want. It's not an issue of lower wages unless it's an issue of language, and they're the first ones that recognize that. So we should make it as easy as possible for somebody that wants to come into this country and work to be able to get a work visa. I'm not talking about green card, I'm not talking about citizenship, but a work visa that should entail a background check and a social security card that applicable taxes would get paid. Look, if we'll abolish the corporate tax, we will need tens of millions of immigrants to fill the jobs that will exist here in this country as opposed to anywhere else in the world. Building a wall across the border is just crazy. Deporting 11 million illegal immigrants. There needs to be a process. Look, we're going to open up our doors, come in, get a work visa, and if you've been law-abiding, yes, you'll get a work visa, and there also needs to be a pathway to citizenship.
The next question is on education, and Governor Johnson, you will go first. Today, the government assumes that they are responsible for educating our children from grades K through 12, and there are further initiatives to expand that to preschool, as well as quote-unquote free college tuition, which we know is not free. At the same time, the quality of education continues to decline. What do you believe the role of government should be in the education process?
As governor of New Mexico, I was more outspoken than any governor in the country, and actually Arnie Carlson was right there. I put him in second place, but when it came to school choice, advocating for school choice, bring competition to public education. With regard to the federal government and what the federal government should do when it comes to education, let's abolish the Federal Department of Education. Look, the Federal Department of Education gives each state 11 cents out of every school dollar that every state spends, but it comes with 15 cents worth of strings attached. The federal government says you need to do A, B, C, and D. Well, to do A, B, and C, and D, it costs 15 cents, and you get 11 cents. The math just doesn't add up. And I think that people think that the Department of Education was established under George Washington. It was established under Jimmy Carter. And what has been value added since Jimmy Carter? Nothing. And the high cost of college tuition has everything to do with guaranteed government student loans. If there would have been no guaranteed government student loans, I guarantee you tuition today would be half of what it is.
Was going to NASA and doing an internship over at NASA Goddard in STEM education, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. And what it comes down to is it doesn't take a rocket scientist to teach our kids. The federal government with its Common Core, it is the worst thing that can happen to education. And as I've said before, education is not required by the U.S. Constitution. The federal government would not have anything to do with it. Going and trying to teach your preschoolers the curriculum that they want, I'm not for that. I feel that the states can handle this. They can, Texas wouldn't accept Common Core. I know that because I used to teach in Texas. The states can handle it. And the thing, this is what bothers me, and this actually goes with the healthcare too, and I know I don't have much time, so I'll try and hurry. But with these programs, they get teachers that just read books, teachers that could follow lists. You lose your good quality teachers. Same thing with healthcare. We lose our good quality doctors because the teachers get bored. They can't teach. The doctors are scared to death they're going to get sued. So it's just completely ridiculous.
Okay. The next question is on gun ownership and Second Amendment rights, and Ms. Sterling, you are first to respond. It seems like the Second Amendment is always in play, and people are always talking about either reducing restrictions or increasing restrictions. What's your perspective on that, including background checks, using the no-fly list as a resource for gun control, gun show loopholes, and assault weapon ownership by private citizens?
The U.S. Constitution is very clear. Everybody could quote it to me. Our Second Amendment rights shall not be infringed, period. And everything that Obama's doing, and see, I helped get him elected, so when he started going for our gun rights, before he was even inaugurated, I started fighting back. And I started fighting back publicly. And then let's just say he didn't like it, government didn't like it, but you know what? They tried to silence me. They tried to scare me. If I went into details, you wouldn't believe what I've had to go through. But I'm standing here alongside Gary, front runner here, and I am fighting back. And I'm just you know, if they kill me, they take me out, then they do. But I love this country. I'm going to spread the seeds of freedom, and I'm going to do it through the Libertarian Party. I don't want to help another party because I know they're all controlled. Yes, they want to take the gun rights because they want to control Americans. Guess what? The more they come from them, the more we buy, and the more we're going to continue to buy. And I love my AR-15s, and I love guns.
Well, here I just have to speak to my record. I've always been a supporter of gun rights, always. When the arguments come up that we should limit the caliber of bullet, that we should limit the number of bullets in the magazine, you know what? I believe that if we do that kind of stuff, that the criminals are going to end up with these more powerful weapons than the good guys. So that's where I come down on all of this. As governor of New Mexico, I was able to sign concealed carry in New Mexico. And this is my voice. When I was governor, Columbine happened. And of course the microphones were in my face. What do you do? What do you do? What do you do about Columbine? And my answer was, you're not going to like the answer. What do you do? Well, you're not going to like the answer. And the answer is the requirement, and you're not going to like it, the requirement of teachers to actually carry weapons. Does that prevent Columbine from ever happening again? Probably not, but might it limit the damage of a Columbine? Yes, it might limit the damage of a Columbine.
The next question is regarding the drug war, and Governor Johnson, you're first. Several states have legalized recreational marijuana use and many more are in the process. It is still illegal at the federal level. What is your commitment level to having marijuana declassified at the federal level, and what is your stance on other recreational drugs such as cocaine, heroin, methamphetamine, etc.?
Good news. In 1999, I was the highest ranking elected official in the United States to call for the legalization of marijuana. That was 1999. In 2016, bad news, I'm still the highest elected official in the United States to call for the legalization of marijuana. And yet in 1999, 30% of Americans supported legalizing marijuana. Today, 60% of Americans support legalizing marijuana. Now, Bernie Sanders apparently rolled out of bed and hit his head and he came up with the epiphany that marijuana should be legalized. Terrific. With regard to all drugs, if we legalized all drugs tomorrow, the world would be a much better place. 90% of the drug problem is prohibition-related, not use-related, but I think by legalizing marijuana, I think this country takes a quantum leap in understanding drug abuse, and that we start off with decriminalizing the use of drugs. I think that that's going to happen. I'll also offer you a prediction that Obama will deschedule marijuana going out the door. That's something that he's already telegraphed, and that would be very positive. I wish he would have done it before now, but I do believe he will do that.
The federal government has no right to make any decision or legislation on the drugs. It's just, that's the U.S. Constitution. There's nowhere in there that gives them that right. This is a decision for the states and for the people of the states to make. I also would go further to say that, and I have my background is in rehabilitation counseling and psychology and pastoral counseling, and I do not feel that individuals who are in jail or prison because of drugs and they haven't violently harmed anyone, I don't think it's helping them to be in jail. So I would work to try and get them out, maybe have some counseling, something else, but I would really work to get these individuals out and back in society, back with their families, where they can not have their life cease to be because maybe they made a decision that is illegal today and will be legal the next day.
Thank you. Okay, the next section of questions is how you would govern, and Ms. Sterling, you're first. A lot of talk lately about the number of executive orders that President Obama uses. He's actually at about 1/10 of what FDR used. And he's actually, of the last 5 presidents, the lowest user of executive orders per year. With that being said, what is your perspective on executive orders, and would you utilize them, and if so, how?
The only executive order that I see myself using at this point would be concerning immigration. And that's just because if I can get in, and I'm real serious about this, if by the date that I'm in office and I'm getting inaugurated, if someone is in the country, then I want to try and help them get legalized. I don't want our families to have this stress, okay? But if they come afterwards, then I want there to be a system in place. But it's black and white. They know. It's illegal to come into the United States without the proper paperwork. When I adopted my daughter from Guatemala, I got stuck out of the country 2 years getting the proper paperwork. Could I got her in? Did people have ways of trying to help me get her in? Yeah. But, you know, I didn't take it. I did the hard way. And I feel that that's important. We are a country of laws that are to help our people, and we should abide by those laws.
As President of the United States, as Governor of New Mexico, I would I would and did take an oath to uphold the Constitution of the state, would take an oath to uphold the Constitution of the United States, and those are the laws of the United States. So in that context, the President of the United States oversees the administration of all federal government, appoints the heads of all agencies. And an invaluable tool, a tool that's absolutely needed, is executive order. So as President of the United States, count on the fact that if there's no legislation that passes whatsoever to limit the scope of government, that I'm going to make that happen, and the tools that I'm going to use to make that happen will lie greatly with executive order, something that I did as governor of New Mexico. Just common sense, a common sense business approach to state government. Best product, state government, federal government, best product, best service, lowest price.
And Governor Johnson, you're first on the next question. It's about how you would work with Congress. So when one of you is elected as the Libertarian president, there's probably not going to be a lot of Libertarian people in Congress and Senate, or in the House and Senate. How would you work with Democrats and Republicans as a Libertarian president?
So as governor of New Mexico, I got elected as a Republican in a state that's 2-to-1 Democrat. The Democrats were 2/3 of the legislature, the Republicans were 1/3 of the legislature. Of all those vetoes that I mentioned, I was an equal opportunity vetoer. I vetoed, 1/3 of the bills I vetoed were Republican bills. So I have no qualms about getting in there and challenging Republicans to what they're supposed to be good at, which is dollars and cents. But you know what? They haven't shown any inclination to actually live up to that. And then how about challenging Democrats to live up to protecting civil liberties? How about challenging Democrats to let's stop getting involved in these military interventions? Marriage equality, ending the drug war, pardoning tens of millions of Americans that, but for our drug laws, would otherwise be tax-paying, law-abiding citizens.
I think when it comes down to it, and in the Republican Party and in the GOP or the DNC, before we are a party member, we are all Americans, and that's what brings us together. And really, I know for a fact that even some at the high up GOP and the DNC, they know that it's out of control. They just don't know how to fix it. And I think if they had a leader come in that helped them, that actually had their back, then we could get on the same page and focus on the fact that we are Americans. We are trying to take our country back from criminals who have really infiltrated their way into our government and are trying to buy our seats. Our seats right now are being bought by millionaires. The average American citizen cannot get into seats in this day and time. The only option we have is a Libertarian Party, and that's why I'm so trying to get the support out for all of our candidates, and that Libertarians only support Libertarian candidates, especially if there is somebody who's a Libertarian on the ballot.
So the final segment of prepared questions I have is how you would run your campaign. And so at this time, I would invite people from the audience to quietly and orderly line up in this area so that after I'm done, they can come up and ask questions. So again, Ms. Sterling, you're the first responder to the first question. It's about how you would fund your campaign. So the Democrat and Republican candidates will have billions of dollars at their disposal. If you receive the nomination from the Libertarian Party, how much money do you think your campaign will be able to raise, and how do you think you'll be able to leverage your likely lower campaign funding to effectively campaign against the R's and D's?
I can't give you a number, but what I can tell you is I ran against Mitch McConnell. He spent millions of dollars. The next candidate under him, he's our governor now, Matt Bevin, $4 million, okay? I had a website. There were additional candidates. I came in third. I pulled, and I'm not proud about this. I'm actually not bragging. I'm just telling you. With the website, I pulled like 2-point-something%. Okay, and that was just Republicans who are registered. And that's because I did one debate on KET. People saw that I was real. Okay, if I could have had more money to advertise, then I would have been able to do more. I actually didn't even campaign a lot. I was just trying to get the information I need for this race. So what I can tell you before my time runs out is these individuals, Trump and Hillary or anybody that the GOP will put up, they're toxic to this country, and American citizens know that. So we don't have, they need all that money because they got to try to get ads out to make them look great. All we got to do is get our candidates up, and it will start at the local level with the local reporters. If the national media is giving us a hard time, I plan to be all over this country. Well, first, if I can get the nomination, I'm going to sit down with all the delegates what percentage do you need? What percentage do you need? I'm gonna make sure those percentages are gone, but I'm also gonna go for the White House too, and I'm gonna do it at the local level, and then the national reporters will have to cover me, cover our party, excuse me.
I would not be doing this if I didn't see the opportunity of winning. That's the only reason that I'm doing this. And the opportunity to win is to be in the presidential debates. There is no way that a third party wins without being in the presidential debates. And I will tell you that I'm suing the Presidential Debate Commission on behalf of whoever the Libertarian nominee is going to end up being. And on top of that, the Presidential Debate Commission has said that if you're at 15% in the polls, you will be in the presidential national debates. For the first time, my name appeared in a national poll 3 weeks ago and was at 11%. There is no question in my mind that if my name can, and as the presumptive nominee, there is no question in my mind that if my name will continue to be in these polls, that I will poll at 15% and be in the presidential debates. All you have to do is give people a sniff that you might win, and if the Libertarian candidate for president is in the national debates, hundreds of millions of dollars will flow to the Libertarian candidate, opening up, potentially winning. That's what's at stake right here.
The next question is, the next question refers to the candidates from the Democratic and Republican Party. And Governor Johnson, you're first on this one. It's looking like Hillary Clinton will be the Democratic nominee for president, but there's still turmoil in the Republican Party as to who will be their final nominee. Do you have a preference of who the Republicans send up against you?
I think that Cruz has morphed into Trump, and when Trump says that he's going to deport 11 million illegal immigrants, that he's going to build a fence across the border and make them pay for it, when he says he's going to kill the families of Islamic terrorists, when he says he's going to bring back waterboarding or worse or whatever it takes, when he says that I'm all for free market, and in the next sentence he says, but I'm going to force Apple to make their iPads and their iPhones in the United States, and then with regard to abortion, oh yes, the woman should be punished. That's on the Trump side of it. On the Hillary side of it, I mean, what is more establishment than the Clintons and Democrat politics? Is anything going to change in this country with Hillary at the helm? Yes, crony capitalism will rise to new heights.
I know Gary has said that he does really well and he doesn't try to go after the other candidates. Can I ask him a question really quick?
Sure, go ahead.
Are you just speaking about the Libertarian candidates, or if you were up against Republicans and Democrats, would you go after them, or would you still be more laid back as you are now?
Do you think I'm laid back?
Well, would you go after them? You haven't really gone after very many in the Libertarian Party.
Well, first of all, I ran 2 campaigns for governor where I did not mention my opponent in print, radio, or television. With regard to debates, the second time I ran for governor, when I ran for re-election, I controlled the debate process, and I debated my opponent 28 times. So I think people deserve a choice, but the differences that I have with people are not personal. They're on the basis of philosophy, on the basis of what a person is going to do. So I am not laid back in any way, shape, or form when it comes to opinion.
And I'm sorry, Gary, I might have used the wrong term there. So I have some stones. I know, like David and Goliath, I have some stones I got to slingshot. And I know these parties, and I plan to take out, politically speaking, anybody who the GOP and the DNC put up, and I'll leave it at that.
Okay, thank you. And now for my final pre-prepared question, and Ms. Sterling, you're first to respond to this, and it's about the commitment to the ultimate Libertarian candidate at the convention. So within the Libertarian Party, if you are not the nominee, will you support whoever is nominated, and does that depend on who that person is?
There's only one candidate that I would not support, and I maybe over the next month and a half I might grow in that. And the reason is because I believe that his interest is not for our party. But I would definitely support anybody else. With full heart and everything I can offer, I'd give them.
Okay, thank you. Governor Johnson?
I'll support whoever the nominee is.
Easy enough. I'll turn it over to the audience now, and my request for the audience questions, Please form your questions so that it's applicable to both candidates, so they will both continue to have the opportunity to respond. And these are continuing to be 1 minute time limits, and Governor Johnson is the next to go first.
Quick technical note, I will have this lapel mic over here. I think it only works on this half of the room. If any of the people on this side don't want to make the trek and wish to ask a question.
Quit stealing my thunder.
Well, I'm going to jump in and ask a question right out of the gate. How do you convince people that they are not wasting their vote voting Libertarian?
A wasted vote is voting for somebody that you don't believe in, and key to winning is give people a sense that you can win. And in this case, the only chance that a third party has, the only chance that the Libertarian Party has, and by the way, the Libertarian Party is the only party that's going to be on the ballot in all 50 states. Hence, the Libertarian nominee is going to be the only nominee on the ballot in all 50 states. So when all this talk about third party, that is the Libertarian Party. Give people a sense that you might win, and boom, this could historically be the most amazing thing that's ever happened in this country politically.
I have supporters that, because I was Shawna for freedom, you know, and I have supporters across this nation. And I believe that if I can get this nomination or at least be on the ticket, I can bring them in. Now, they won't come in if we go, oh, we're going to go for 1% or 5%. But if we say we're going to go for the White House, we are going to run a real campaign for the White House, I know they will come in because they want to have that option. They want to be part of a team that is going for the win and runs aggressively. In defense, I'll say, because that's what we're doing. We are defending our country from the GOP, from the DNC, from these bond paid for candidates. So what I would love to do is I would love to bring them in, but I can't do that unless the Libertarian Party actually really runs an aggressive campaign and says we're going for the White House.
Okay, so next audience question, and Ms. Sterling is first to respond.
Hi, my name is James Gentleman from Minneapolis. As a gay man, I for years have supported the Libertarian Party, specifically because of their position on gay rights since 1971 when it was founded. I finally have equal rights. Thanks, in Minnesota I've had it for years, and in the last year or two, thanks to the Supreme Court. But now there's a big push to restrict the rights of wedding photographers, bakers, wedding planners, what have you, to stand by their religious convictions and restrict my right to know whether I'm going to be doing business with a bigot when I do get married. Governor Johnson, you've been outspoken in your position on this issue. I would love to hear both of you speak to this issue and also to hear a defense, because Governor Johnson, I do know that you disagree kind of with the standard Libertarian position on it.
Ms. Sterling, you're first to respond to this.
Sorry about that. Okay. I will support whoever, whatever. Like, this is what I said in Texas. I don't care. You know, I hate that people say, well, I'm gay, and they have to feel like they have to put it out there. I really don't care. You're just a human being. Just whatever you want, I will support you in it. But I will also support pastors, for example, or other individuals. I don't think that you should go in and force a business to bake a cake a certain way, or force any business to do things a certain way, because then you become a slave master over them. Now, obviously, you're not going to go there and buy anything from them. They're going to go out of business. That's what's going to happen. But to try and control them and force them to do it, I think it's against the libertarian principle. But I would definitely support equality and rights for all American citizens. Absolutely.
So should a business be able to discriminate? Yeah, absolutely. You don't have shoes on, you don't have shirt on, you stink, you're yelling obscenities. Yeah, you should be able to discriminate against having to do business with that person. Should a business be able to discriminate on the basis of religion? No, I don't think so at all. And you go back to the Civil War. After the Civil War, and this has been tried in the courts in the United States 100 times, is after the Civil War, those businesses in the South refused to give service to blacks on the basis of religion, that it didn't jive with their religion. As libertarians, me as Gary Johnson, am I going to support discrimination of any kind? No. And what I don't think we're recognizing here as libertarians is for a business to be able to discriminate against someone on the basis of religion, that would have to be new legislation that passes. It would be legislation that says it's okay to discriminate on the basis of religion. And I have to tell you, I think that that is a black hole. Why can't I have the same rights on the other side of the counter as the person, as the business owner? I have this fear that the business owner says, my religion is that God speaks to me every 20 seconds and he just sent me a text and he says, I'm not doing business with you.
Okay, in the interest of time, the gentleman, you're going to be our last question, okay? And we're also going to go to a speed round, which is 30-second time limits. Kevin, can you adjust to that? You're wonderful. All right. So, Governor Johnson, I believe you're first to respond to this question.
Hi, my name is Brian Regelman. I'm from St. Paul, and my question is what are your stances on intellectual property rights? The Constitution allows for them and provides for them, but they have been abused by companies like Monsanto when they target farmers whose seed has been contaminated with their genetics.
I'm sorry.
Well, I think I'm the first one to answer that. Look, this is not one of those black and white issues, in my opinion. Is some intellectual property worth protecting? Perhaps, but it seems to me that we've gone way overboard. That innovation that all of us wake up one morning and seem to come to grips with have now been granted an intellectual property right on that. So really, this is just having somebody at the helm with good common sense and being able to determine the difference between the two. And of course, that would be the administration of the agency overseeing intellectual property.
You know, obviously we need to have some support for intellectual property, but I know what you're saying with the GMOs. And these individuals who plant their crops knowing that the seed is going to fly over to other fields, they know that they're going to contaminate the other seeds. They know it. So I see it as more of an attack against other farmers. And I would actually, in my opinion, I'd prosecute them for that because I like to grow things organically. I like organic heirloom seeds. And I would hate anybody who would try to ruin my seed crop with some GMOs knowing that what they're planting could get into my seed crop.
Okay, and Ms. Sterling, you're first on the next question.
John Black from Minneapolis. Jack Kennedy said that Washington, D.C. combined Southern efficiency with Northern charm. I've observed that so many former governors from New Mexico and senators from New Mexico and other southwestern states have come to national prominence. What lessons can we learn from the Southwest?
And Ms. Sterling, you are first to respond.
Okay. You know, I'm gonna have to pass on this. Okay? I'm so sorry. I'm just gonna pass because I don't feel that I can answer this question.
Would you like to answer it as far as the geographic place from which you come?
Okay. It's just hard. This is what it comes down to is every state's a little bit different. Every state has different things to offer. And when you have individuals who come, let's see, or wherever, and you have the North, you have people who see things a certain way based on what their environment is, okay? And it's just a matter of trying to come together, and that's something that's why I don't want to say too much on because it's not. I see Americans more. I can see us coming together on these issues. I don't have any. I don't really have anything that I can add to it. That's what I'm trying to say. I'll let Gary do it. I'll just dig my hole deeper.
Well, I think I have a unique perspective, having grown up or having been born in North Dakota, having lived in Minnesota for 1 year, having lived in South Dakota for 8 years prior to moving to New Mexico. Minnesota, North Dakota, South Dakota, statistically, best place to raise a child in the entire country. That's a statistical fact. But when it comes to New Mexico is like 48th, 49th, I mean, depending on which poll you look at. But I wouldn't choose anywhere else in the world to raise my kids other than New Mexico. The diversity that exists, the largest percentage Hispanic population of all of all the states, there's a diversity there that can't be measured by these statistics. So I just, like I say, that's my perspective. There is just good everywhere.
And Governor Johnson, you're first to answer this question.
Hi, Javi Barker from Earth. I wanted to ask
From where?
from Earth. I wanted to ask for some clarification on something that Gary said during the ISIS question. But from the sound of it, Ms. Sterling has some expertise here too, so I invite her comments also. I think you said, maybe I misheard you, or maybe I just don't understand, that you would follow Saudi Arabia's example in dealing with ISIS. And I don't quite know what Saudi Arabia's example is or what of it you wish to emulate. So I wonder if you could tell us.
The cutting off of funding. They have taken aggressive steps, understanding where the funding to ISIS, to where the funding comes from, and the government has cut off that funding. So have the Emirates cut off that funding.
Do you mean
Now,
they were funding ISIS and then stopped?
Yeah, they were funding organizations that directly then contributed to ISIS, yes.
Okay.
Specifically the Muslim Brotherhood.
Ms. Sterling?
Saudi Arabia is still funding the proxy armies. Saudi Arabia, it's all about natural gas. Iraq and Qatar have natural gas pocket right between them. Iraq wants to get that gas from Iraq to Iran to Syria, under the Mediterranean to the European market. Qatar wants to get the gas too, but they have to go through Saudi Arabia, and then they got to go either through Iran, Iraq, or Syria, okay? Then to Turkey, then to the European market. Problem is, the Assad did not. The president of Syria did not want to do that, and that's why we have ISIS right now. Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and Turkey are funding ISIS. Okay, that's what's going on. ISIS is Al Qaeda.
And Ms. Sterling's first on the next question.
So I currently work as a terrorist financing investigator, and a large part of my work is the U.S. Patriot Act, which a lot of people disagree with because of the privacy rights that it takes away from. So I guess my question would be, what kind of reforms would you plan to make on the U.S. Patriot Act so that we can still kind of monitor any types of terrorist financing or anything like that?
We have to have some way to monitor our enemies. We have to. But right now, required by law, we need a court order we should have a court order to monitor an American citizen. Right now, I guess there's some kangaroo court that they get these court orders through, from what I understand. And it's just a violation of the rights. So I want to make sure that if there was a court order indeed, then the court order to gain that information would be handled correctly.
Well, I would repeal the Patriot Act, but I would convene a meeting with individuals like yourself to fully understand exactly what is being collected, and the whole notion of metadata, 110 million Verizon users. There should be a way to, in fact, have due process, that we would be able to monitor potential terrorists, but as President of the United States, the magic of being able to convene the people that actually know about this and what we are doing and what we might be doing, and then emerge from that with a better going forward situation.
Okay, and we're now time for our final audience question, and then it'll be time for closing remarks. And Governor Johnson, you are first on this final question.
Hi, Andy Fisher of Minneapolis. I was surprised during talking about fiscal policy questions that the most invasive tax on Americans never came up, which is the inflation tax. You know, we've got the monetary base of the US dollar, which has increased fourfold in the last 5 years. What's your stance on the Federal Reserve?
I would abolish the Federal Reserve if given the opportunity, and earlier I mentioned that I think our downfall is going to end up to be the horrible inflation that's going to accompany what we're currently doing. Look, it's a rigged game. The Federal Reserve gives, in 2008, the Federal Reserve gave banks 0% interest to keep all these assets on the books. If those assets would have been turned over to you and I to potentially purchase, those of us that had been prudent in our lives and had savings accounts, we could have taken advantage of that situation. But no, we weren't allowed to do that, and arguably real estate values have returned to what they were, but none of us were able to take advantage of that.
as far as the Federal Reserve, we need to audit and then abolish. It's only going to get harder. This is a rigged game. We are under a strategic economic attack in our country. And more families, our middle class, are going to continue to fall into poverty. And it's happened since 2008. It's going to make it more difficult for the average American to get into office and to do anything about it. So I can say one of the other parties will take up this fight. They won't take it up. This is going to be a fight the Libertarian Party is going to have to take up. And we're going to have to do it immediately. We cannot really wait any longer.
Thank you.
All right, and we'll wrap it up with the closing remarks. Each candidate will have 2 minutes. Kevin, please adjust to 2 minutes. And Ms. Sterling, you are next, so your 2-minute closing remarks, please.
I think what's important to know is I am going to be in Orlando, Florida, and I really just need 30 delegates. So I know some of our other leading candidates, they're going to get their delegates, okay? But I need 30 just to be on the ballot, and I need about 10% of total delegates to be able to be in the presidential debates. I really want to be in those presidential debates, even if it's just to offer a little bit more than what the Dawson debate offered. I'd like to be up there. I think there's maybe another candidate that I'd like to see him up there. Actually, it's Dr. Feldman. He was going to be here tonight. And I'd love for us both to be involved in that. But I'm looking for 30 delegates who could take a chance on me. You don't have to ultimately vote for me, but just help me get in those debates so I can debate along with the other candidates. And if you're interested, you can contact me at pastorshawnasterling@gmail.com or find me on Facebook. I actually love to talk to people. If you find, I'm a counselor. I'm a non-counselor. If you find me on Facebook and you start wanting to talk to me, I will talk back to you and I'll tell you a lot more about me and answer all your questions. But it's just 30, and I'm going all across the country. Let's see, I was in Texas on the 8th. Then I drove all the way down to Miami-Dade. I was there for a town hall, then a debate. I came home for 1 day to see my little girl. She's 9 now. And then I came up here to this debate. And then next weekend, I'm not doing a debate. And after that, I go to Kansas. And I think you're going to New York, aren't you? Are you going to New York?
Yep.
They're going to be going to New York, and I'm going to be going to Kansas. So we really need your support. And Gary's going to get all his 30 delegates. I know he will. They already got their hotels and everything for being a part of this campaign, so he's going to get them. So, I just need 30 to send my way. Thank you.
I reject the notion of let's make this country great again. We've never been more great. I mean, think about it. We get along better. Kids are smarter than ever. The greatest law enforcement tool that's out there right now is right here. Has life ever been better? No, it hasn't. One thing that's been left out of this campaign is how about the notion of entrepreneurship? The notion that you can create your own job, that you can create jobs for others, that the model of the future is Uber. It's Uber everything. It's Uber electrician, it's Uber plumber, it's Uber doctor, it's Uber lawyer. It's eliminating the middleman. It's allowing the customer to pay directly for goods and services where the person providing the goods and services makes more money, but the customer is paying less money. That's the model of the future. The model of the future is Airbnb. Talking to a young woman in Baltimore, graduating in science, doctorate in science. She says, I have these horrible student debts. She said, but I figured out a way to pay back the student debts, and it was Airbnb. But guess what? The city of Baltimore has banned Airbnb. So get government out of the way. Allow for entrepreneurship. The stakes have never been bigger for the Libertarian Party. I am suing the Presidential Debate Commission. Bruce Fein is suing the Presidential Debate Commission. Bruce Fein's biggest claim to fame is that he brought Nixon down in Watergate. In his next sentence, he says the biggest thing that he has done in his entire life is suing the Presidential Debate Commission because of the fact that it's a rigged game and that it will change politics in America forever. This is where we're at right now. This is the opportunity that we have, and I want to make the pitch. Make me your guy. You won't be disappointed.